CityCast Pittsburgh is brought to you today by Jones Dairy Farm. They are a 7th-generation, family-owned and operated meat maker with products like dry-aged bacon, all-natural sausage, and America's favorite center-cut Canadian bacon. Their premium meats are all gluten-free, perfect for busy mornings, and available all over the place here in Pittsburgh. I checked out the map on their website, jonesdairyfarm.com, and got back dozens of our grocery stores. You can even get their sausage in pork, chicken, or turkey, all no preservatives, no additives, no MSG, nitrates, or fillers. Just fresh ingredients from Jones Dairy Farm, making breakfast better since 1889. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, a new horse has entered the mayor's race. Corey O'Connor has been a city councilor, most recently the Allegheny County Controller, in charge of keeping track how we spend and maybe how we should not be spending taxpayer money. And he's even a former mayor's son. Today, we are very excited to hold space for one of our partner organizations here in town, Next Generation Newsroom, and reporter Colleen Hammond, who talked to Mr. O'Connor on the eve of his big official announcement. It's Monday, December 16th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about.
I'd love to hear about your start. You're running for mayor. Tell me a little bit about why.
I am. Well, so I think, given my background on council and now as the controller, I see an opportunity to grow Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And I think right now we are in a managed decline conversation and we have to turn the tide. I mean, Pittsburgh, I look around and people see vacant space, blight, empty storefronts right here in downtown, and I look at it and say, we have opportunities. And why are we not amplifying those opportunities? And I think that office can do so much more than what it's doing right now.
And why is now kind of the moment for you to run? You are no stranger to political office. Why the office of mayor? Why do you think that is the next path for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just see that, what I see right now is mismanagement of a city. And, I think now is the perfect opportunity to come in there before we hit another financial cliff, before other cities like Cleveland and Columbus pass us by, even though they already have. How do we get back on the same page as Pittsburgh is a hub for people to start moving back here, for companies to start locating here? And you just see no plan or vision to do that. And I think given the background that I have, I think you can go in day one and know exactly what you want to do and how you would do it. Okay,
well then that begs the question.
What are you doing?
What do you want to do?
What do I want to do? Yeah, so I think there's a number of things. Mm-hmm. I think one, if you focus on neighborhoods, you can have I like the Main Street theory. You invest $1 million in 10 different main streets in Pittsburgh and you start seeing a change because it's where the heart of each and every neighborhood are. Mm-hmm. So you take, 10 at a time, but you keep plugging along and you start moving and then eventually you do that all over the city. I also think we're not having a long-term conversation about families living here. And I think it caught my eye now that I have a 3 and a 1.5-year-old, we are going to stay here. How do I convince other people to stay here? And I think Pittsburgh should be every family's first choice. And right now, we're not having those long-term conversations. We know the schools are going to go from 52 to 40. Okay, what is the city going to do to either look at those 12 empty schools, but also what are we going to do for families that want more activity in the summer, more activity probably before school rather than just after school? So those are conversations that aren't happening, and it's just because people aren't aligned being aggressive in those conversations.
You've mentioned a lot of these strong initiatives to pour money into local neighborhoods, to bring families into play. Tell me, where are you getting the money for all this?
Well, I mean, if you just look at the overall budget, let's be strategic in what we're doing. This administration spent $6 million on a planning study. You have good planners in the planning department. That $6 million should be spent on people and places. The more studies that we do, it's draining our budget, but you're not seeing capital investment in our neighborhoods, and that's where you need to make that capital investment in order to turn around this city. And I just think we've studied the city so many times over the years that the neighborhood and the people They know what to do in their neighborhoods. They know how to fix it.
You mentioned that these studies are a drain of public resources to you. Can you tell me how these studies differ from your current office as controller of the county? You are auditing and spending time looking for efficiency and planning for the future. How would those two things different that you justify your office?
Yeah, I mean, I think being the controller gives me a different perspective. I mean, the decade and a half on council, you know public works, you know each department throughout the city very well, and you can make the changes that you want right away. But then having, the controller hat for the last couple years shows me where we've been ineffective in spending. So if you look at the audits that we did, clean air, that money should be spent on neighbors and residents, and it wasn't. Crime and justice. I think that's a long-term conversation, but we've audited the jail a few times, especially when it comes to youth, and if a parent or guardian is in the jail, what happens to the kids? We're not focusing on marginalized communities, and that's where we found a lot of wasteful spending in the controller's office.
And I've noticed you have this pattern of these quality of life audits, of looking at some of these bigger picture issues in the city. Can you tell me a bit about how you think you will be able to enforce these? It's very easy to be the person on the sidelines pointing at the other team and saying this is what's wrong with the city. And while you have proposed multiple plans for increased efficiency through these audits, what makes you think you will be able to enforce these plans if you take the mayorship?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the alignment and getting it done. It's bringing in partners from all different walks and having them have, here's our goal. How do we get to our goal? The other audit that we did was on homelessness. We found that at one point in time on a snapshot, there were 50 shelter beds that weren't being used. That's horrible. Those are the little things that if we are more transparent about the issue and where we see gaps, that's where the city and a leader can come in and fill those gaps. You talk about housing and the housing crisis that we're under. We're 6,000 plus units short for affordable housing. We're also about 15,000 short on, working class housing. So you're 20,000 plus short units on all different variables. And I think that's because you're not being effective in having shovel-ready sites so that we can build new housing all over the city. And that's the biggest issue. And you talk about wasted money. We had $350 million of ARP money. Where did that all go? It went to hiring 100 people at Public Works. It went to, studies that we were just talking about. That money needed to be spent in building a city of the future. Now that money's gone. And I think that's where the opportunity for me to come in and look at it and say, look, we don't have all of this money right now. What are the nuts and bolts? What are the basics that we actually can do, focus on a couple key locations, and rebuild those back up?
And what key locations are you looking at specifically?
I think it goes to the main and main theory. And I think you have them in all parts of the city. You look at the West End and the South gets left out all the time. But if you actually look at the amenities that are there, it's easy to go through town. You don't have to go through a tunnel. Easy to get to the airport. You have vacant buildings and space there that you could really reuse and entice people to move there. Right now you have Bakery Square, the Strip, and Lawrenceville. Those are doing very well. But you can have hubs like that all over the city. You just need an agenda and a vision to do it.
We have one more act for you this evening. I don't even need to say his name. Mr. Bob Dylan.
From the director of Walk the Line and Ford vs. Ferrari.
If anyone is going to hold your attention on stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
And starring Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
Once upon a time, you're just so fine.
Inspired by the true story.
I want to know which side he's on.
This Christmas.
They just want me singing Blowing in the Wind for the rest of my life.
Bobby, what do you want to be?
Whatever it is they don't want me to be.
He defied everyone.
Turn it down!
Play loud!
To change everything.
He's our Elvis.
With no direction home.
Timothy Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro.
Make some noise, BD. Track some mud on the carpet.
A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17 not admitted without parent.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Okay, tell me more about that vision.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at businesses that have to locate here, the other thing that we don't talk about are the businesses that are already here. So if you're a business, how can we, the city of Pittsburgh, help you grow? Do you need space? What is it? Is it office space downtown? Is it, a 3-story building in the West End, in the North Side, wherever they want to locate? You entice them to locate there so then they can continue to grow.
How do you do that?
Well, I was answering the question. Sorry. Too long of an answer. Okay. But then the other part of it is when you see those vacant lots and vacant storefronts, we have the ability with startup companies here now to entice them to be here. So you have to have incentives. For so many years, I've gone to communities. They said, oh, I'd love to open up downtown. Well, why don't you? Well, I can't park. Well, wait, I run the parking authority. If you're the mayor, here's 2 free parking spots. I mean, you have to get creative in ideas so that people want to be down here, and you cut out all the red tape and the barriers so that they can open their businesses and come back to Pittsburgh. And also you look at in the South Hills, the Latin American Chamber last year just created 40 new businesses. Like, there are opportunities in space here that you can grow a region out of. You're just not aligning them up to get it done.
And you've mentioned housing, and I know that is a big issue on your mind. Can you tell me about specific housing policies that you are interested in that would help ameliorate the homeless population across Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so I mean, what I see right now is a crisis on housing. And I see space being left vacant, no vision on how to build this. I know there's 2 bills at council right now for inclusionary zoning, which I voted for Lawrenceville as a demo, and that's a tool that you can use in the future. But it's also being a leader, convincing people to come to Pittsburgh. And if you're not building or growing, they're not going to be here much longer. So you have to have housing of all type, but you have to have shovel-ready sites. When you're looking at demos across the city, pick out key locations where you can have an acre now to offer, a mixed-use housing development. And I think that's where you lean on the planning department who knows this stuff. You don't go to an outside agency out of New York or Chicago to come in and tell the people of Pittsburgh what they already know and how they want to get it done.
How would you start getting those sites shovel ready?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously where you look at capital and you get them ready to go. I think you have partners in the housing opportunity funds and other housing developers that need to sit at the table and figure out how quick we can start building these housing units. I mean, I look, for example, at Squirrel Hill. Everybody said you couldn't do affordable housing in Squirrel Hill. Wait, that's now the heart and soul of the neighborhood. When you come off the Parkway, Action Housing, right where the Poli site was, that's a affordable housing unit. And that shows that you can do affordable units everywhere in the city if you collectively are working together on sites. That's why, going back to the Main Street theory, if it's on a bus line, you're helping people get there. You can't just do development where nobody has access. That's one thing that we don't talk about in Pittsburgh is, let's put this here, let's put this there, but that's not actually helping people. You have to make it a transit-oriented development, especially when it comes to working class housing that we desperately need.
I'm curious about downtown. Even though crime has been declining, even though downtown is slowly coming back to life.
I don't know if I'd believe that, but okay.
What can you do about reviving downtown's image?
Yeah, I mean, I think, one, it's actually telling the truth about crime. Right now, what I see is an administration that basically lied to the public for the last 4 years. When you have a backdoor agreement with the chief of police that allows him to go and referee, retire early, take our tax money, and run away, and they both lied about it, that's not being upfront and transparent. So, under my administration, we're going to tell you the actual numbers. Right now, they control the narrative. So, somebody says crime is down, let's produce it. What type? They look at a snapshot in time and say that it's down, but if you look at over their 4 years, it's not. And I think the image of crime downtown is the biggest problem. So what we deserve is more transparency when it comes to crime, so that people know that downtown's safe. It's more of a physical presence than anything else. If you start opening up storefronts, making it more vibrant, a lot of these great events that we have are being hamstrung by this administration. But the more you get people back downtown, making it a thriving community again, you don't have those issues as much. But if you're not transparent with the public, why would they believe you about whatever you said about crime?
How do you square those two ideas that you have right there, that crime is not going down, but that downtown is safe and people should be investing in it?
Well, I think one, you hire a chief of police full time. You can't. That's the top cop. The top cop cannot be a part-time job. That is one of the most important roles in the city of Pittsburgh. But you start being transparent about what's happening downtown. So you have X amount of officers walking the streets, whatever it is. You need to make sure that people believe that when they come down here, they feel safe. And you also have to entice companies to locate back down here. As much as we want to rehab some of these buildings, I think those are great ideas. The time it's going to take to do that is going to take years. And where are we going to be in 4 more years when we know we're declining right now? So it has to be an optimistic conversation about growth with young entrepreneurs in all neighborhoods of Pittsburgh, with the universities that know that they have startups that need space. Why not downtown? And nobody's having that conversation. But you have to incentivize people to come back. And you have to incentivize companies to locate to Pittsburgh. When was the last time a major company came here and even did a tour that they were talking or thinking about Pittsburgh? Hasn't happened in years. To me, I'm sitting in a room and making calls to companies that say, hey, have you ever thought about Pittsburgh? Where are those one-on-one conversations? And I don't think anybody's having them. And I think that's the shame. It's sit back and wait and hope that something happens. See, we deserve a vision where you're sitting down and being aggressive to get those companies to stay here.
So you're looking at a one-on-one kind of tailored custom approach with these businesses.
That, but also initiatives through the URA, initiatives through the parking authority, initiatives through building owners. Right now, let's take the Mellon building, for example. It's going to be gone in a couple years. They're turning the note back over. Well, the one who actually owns that is MetLife. So the first call should be to MetLife saying, if this building is yours, it's going to cost you $15 million to heat it every year for the rest of the existence of that building. What can we collectively do to be creative with all of that money you're going to be spending? How do we fill that building back up? And I will guarantee you, nobody has reached out to MetLife to have that conversation. And
do you support rethinking and restructuring of some of these downtown spaces that are vacant, as in turning them into housing, say?
Yeah, I think everything's on the table.
Okay.
But I think to make downtown vibrant by reusing them for housing opportunities, you also have to have businesses and create a vibrancy that people want to live downtown. And I think that's the conversation that nobody's talking about. And by the time you gut these buildings, how long is that going to take? And not every building can be gutted. So if housing is going to be the end-all be-all, you can't do that to every single building downtown.
Okay. And part of your vision is increased policing.
Well, it's to make you safer, yes. So obviously it's the presence of increasing. But you're also, right now, what they are doing is decreasing public safety. All types of public safety. We have ambulances that can't make it to and from calls because they're breaking down. Your paramedics are at an all-time low. Police staffing, all-time low. So in theory, this administration is defunding all of public safety, not just police. And you need each and every department in public safety to be at full mass and at full strength, because we have a city of 300,000 people. But in reality, during the day, you're well above that. We used to be close to 1 million that would travel throughout the city each day. And if you're not staffed to make people safe or to help them in case there's an emergency, how's that going to look for the rest of the people that want to locate here?
Right. You've mentioned a lot of the issues in the city thus far. What do you think is the defining issue of the city at this time?
I think it's lack of vision. I think that where are we going to be in 4 years? And I think it's also transparency. The transparency with public safety, as we said, defunding all of those departments, that hurts each and every individual. But not having been transparent with us about backroom deals. That's our money that you're agreeing to, and you don't bring it up until after the fact. And lack of vision is just something that we don't hear about. What are we going to look like in 5 years? Their budget shows a decline in real estate investment. How do you exist when you have nothing to talk about in the future? And that's why I say this group is managing decline. The mayor is managing decline right now. He's not having a conversation about what Pittsburgh can be. And that's why I'm going to talk about the opportunities that I see all around us if you have forward thinking and you think about creative initiatives to get people back here.
It's clear you're very passionate about the city.
Maybe too much, yeah.
Thank you so much for making time to me, Mr. O'Connor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was Colleen Hammond of Next Generation Newsroom talking to County Controller and new mayoral candidate Corey O'Connor. That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. A special thank you again to everyone who became a CityCast Pittsburgh member last week during our big end of year campaign. The tote bags have been ordered and they will be with you all very soon. If you missed out and you still want the gift of ad-free listening in your life, or you want to buy it for somebody else, check out all the details at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Talk to you soon.